In the heart of the vibrant jungle, where the trees stretched high enough to tickle the clouds and the flowers bloomed in colors so bright they looked like a painter had spilled a rainbow across the forest floor, Yeti was having the busiest morning of his life. The normally quiet snow-capped mountain slopes where he lived were now buzzing with excitement because the jungle animals had requested Yeti's famous ice cream for the annual Sweet Treats Day. Yeti, with his snowy white fur shimmering under the early morning sun, carried a giant wooden tray filled with colorful ice cream cones, each topped with sparkling sprinkles, chocolate drizzles, and tiny gummy animals. Bear, his best friend and jungle partner in fun, was helping, bouncing around in his thick, brown fur and wearing a bright red apron that somehow looked comically small on his round belly. The two friends had spent the entire week experimenting with new flavors, from mango moonlight to blueberry blizzard, and even a mysterious jungle surprise that Yeti had secretly invented. As they set their ice cream stand near the riverbank, hummingbirds zooming past like tiny helicopters and monkeys swinging from vines, the jungle inhabitants began to gather, their eyes wide with anticipation. Everything seemed perfect until Bear, in his usual clumsy excitement, tripped over a vine and sent a large tub of coconut cloud ice cream tumbling across the soft, mossy ground. Yeti, whose massive Yeti hands were surprisingly nimble, lunged forward to catch the runaway ice cream, but ended up colliding with a group of dancing parrots, causing a rainbow of feathers to explode into the air. The scene turned into a chaotic mess of slipping, sliding, and laughing animals, each one trying to help without getting covered in sticky ice cream. At that moment, Yeti realized that the secret ingredient in the jungle surprise flavor was melting faster than they could serve. It threatening to turn the carefully prepared dessert into a gooey puddle that would make the jungle floor both delicious and dangerously slippery. He quickly devised a plan to scoop the melting ice cream into smaller cones while Bear corralled the animals into a safe circle, all the while making jokes to keep everyone giggling. Despite the mess, a sense of joy bubbled up, and Yeti couldn't help but chuckle at the pandemonium. They might have a mix-up on their hands, but it was exactly the kind of adventure he loved most. Once the initial chaos settled, Yeti and Bear started noticing something unusual. The ice cream flavors had begun to mix in ways that neither of them had planned. The coconut cloud that had splattered across the moss had combined with a blueberry blizzard, creating a creamy swirl that smelled like a tropical breeze mixed with the sweetness of fresh berries. Curious monkeys dipped their paws in the mixture and squealed in delight, spreading the concoction further with every playful swipe. Even the parrots, recovering from their earlier feathered frenzy, began pecking at the swirls, their colorful beaks leaving streaks of red, green, and yellow in the creamy chaos. Bear, watching the mishmash, accidentally tipped over another tub, this time mango moonlight, and a cascade of golden yellow ice cream streamed across the jungle floor like a molten sun. Yeti gasped for a moment, thinking the disaster was about to get worse. But then something magical happened. The melting mess turned into an impromptu ice cream fountain, and the jungle animals, instead of panicking, lined up with their cones, ready to sample the unexpected flavors. Tiny squirrels scampered up Yeti's legs, holding miniature bowls, while elephants used their trunks to scoop generous servings for the smaller animals. Yeti and Bear exchanged a glance, eyes wide with disbelief, realizing that their accidental mix-up had created the most fun and delicious ice cream experience anyone in the jungle had ever seen. Laughter echoed through the trees as a gentle breeze carried the mingling aromas of chocolate, coconut, mango, and berry throughout the jungle. Even the shyest creatures, like the nocturnal owls who usually nap during the day, peeked from behind branches to join the festivities. Yeti felt a warm glow inside him, not from the ice cream, but from the joy of seeing his friends so happy. He and Bear danced around the fountain, scooping ice cream and occasionally slipping in the puddles, causing more laughter to ripple through the crowd. It became clear that sometimes mistakes could turn into the best surprises, especially when shared with friends who didn't mind a little sticky mess. By mid-afternoon, the jungle was buzzing with stories of the mix-up, and the animals were already planning for next year's event, hoping for another wild, sweet adventure with Yeti and Bear at the helm. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Yeti and Bear finally took a moment to sit on a moss-covered log, exhausted but content. The jungle floor was sticky. The animals had sticky paws, and there were ice cream drips on their fur. But the laughter, chatter, and delight filled the air in a way that made all the mess worthwhile. Bear licked a stray streak of jungle surprise from his paw, shaking his head and saying, "Well, that wasn't exactly planned, but I think it might have been better." Yeti nodded, his big eyes twinkling, realizing that the mix-up had taught them both an important lesson. Sometimes perfection is overrated, and happiness comes from embracing the unexpected. The animals, still buzzing with excitement, began to head back to their homes, carrying cones, bowls, and stories to share with anyone who would listen. Yeti and Bear started cleaning up, humming songs they had made up during the day, their friendship stronger than ever. Just as they were finishing, a tiny rabbit hopped up with a tiny scoop of leftover ice cream and said, "Next time, can we try even more flavors?" Both Yeti and Bear laughed, already imagining the next adventure, the next flavor experiment, and the next joyful chaos that awaited them in their jungle home. As night fell, the stars sparkled like tiny ice cream sprinkles in the sky, and Yeti and Bear sat back, satisfied that their little mix-up had turned into an unforgettable day of laughter, friendship, and delicious surprises. The jungle was peaceful again, but everyone knew that with Yeti and Bear around, there was always a sweet adventure waiting just around the corner. In the heart of the jungle, where sunlight danced through thick emerald leaves and tiny shafts of light turned the forest floor into a mosaic of gold and green, Yeti was having a morning unlike any other. His massive white fur glistened, dotted with drops of melted snow from the mountain air, and his wide, curious eyes scanned the horizon, filled with excitement and a touch of nervousness. Today wasn't just any ordinary day. It was the annual Jungle Sweet Treats Day, and every creature from the tiniest ant to the largest elephant was expecting Yeti's legendary ice cream. Beside him, Bear wobbled on his short legs, his round belly jiggling with every enthusiastic step, a bright red apron tied awkwardly around him, too small but endearing in its charm. The two friends had spent the entire week experimenting in Yeti's icy cave, mixing flavors no one had ever imagined: coconut cloud, mango moonlight, blueberry blizzard, and the mysterious jungle surprise, a creamy concoction whose recipe Yeti had perfected over years of trial and error. Yeti carried a giant wooden tray filled with perfectly shaped ice cream cones, each cone decorated with rainbow sprinkles, chocolate curls, gummy animals, and a drizzle of golden honey that glimmered in the sunlight. Bear bounced alongside him, humming a silly tune, while monkeys swung overhead and colorful parrots chirped and squawked, curious about the delicious scents wafting from the tray. "Yeti! Yeti! Wait till the lions try the jungle surprise." Bear giggled, tipping over slightly but steadying himself with a paw. Yeti chuckled, his deep voice rumbling like distant thunder. "Bear, calm down. We have to make sure the flavors don't mix too much." But as soon as the words left his mouth, Bear, in his usual clumsy excitement, tripped over a vine sticking out from the mossy ground. A tub of coconut cloud flew high into the air, spinning like a tiny moon, and landed with a plop on the soft moss, sending tiny clouds of ice cream flying in every direction. Yeti lunged forward, his long arms stretching like elastic, trying to catch it, but instead collided with a group of startled parrots, who squawked and flapped, showering the friend with rainbow feathers. The monkeys squealed, leaping from branch to branch, as if the jungle had suddenly turned into a carnival of chaos. Even the elephants, who had been patiently waiting, trumpeted in surprise, lifting their trunks and shaking off stray drops of ice cream from their enormous ears. Yet, amidst the pandemonium, laughter bubbled up from Yeti and Bear. "Well, that's one way to serve ice cream," Bear exclaimed, slipping slightly on a smear of mango moonlight, but catching himself just in time with a triumphant grin. Yeti shook his head, still laughing, realizing that their carefully planned day had turned into an adventure full of slipping, sliding, and giggling animals. The air was filled with the aroma of melting chocolate, fresh mangoes, sweet berries, and coconut, making the jungle smell like the most magical dessert shop imaginable. Yeti quickly devised a plan, instructing Bear to corral the animals into a safe circle, while he scooped the spilled ice cream into smaller, less messy servings. The monkeys helped by carefully handing tiny leaves as plates to the ants, and even the parrots, now calmer, perched nearby, watching with interest. "Look, Yeti, The jungle surprise is melting faster than I thought, Bear said, his voice tinged with concern but still cheerful. Yeti nodded, his large, furry hands scooping ice cream efficiently while dodging playful squirrels who kept trying to lick the mixture off the moss. Despite the mess, there was a magical energy buzzing in the air. The animals weren't upset. They were excited. Laughter echoed, the sound bouncing off tree trunks and ricocheting across the canopy. Yeti and Bear exchanged a glance, their eyes twinkling with the thrill of unpredictable fun. The ice cream mix-up had turned into a jungle adventure in its own right, a chaotic yet heartwarming start to a day that promised laughter, sticky paws, and flavors no one would ever forget. And in that moment, as they worked together, slipping, sliding, and occasionally tumbling into the mess themselves, Yeti realized that maybe, just maybe, mistakes could be the most wonderful part of any day.